Hello, everyone. Good morning. Is morning meditation. Very warm welcome to everyone. We'll just give it a couple of seconds to be in silence and also just giving an opportunity for everyone to join in. We all are looking forward to Sunday, and in some countries it may already be evening. Uh, Hope everybody had a good weekend and are looking forward to starting the new week. Okay, so um, very warm welcome. This is Kanupriya from Peace Village Learning and Retreat Center of the Brahma Kumaris in New York. And today we are going to explore a little bit about being sensitive and how we have an option to be sensible instead of sensitive. So the topic is sensitive or sensible. When we talk about being sensitive, it just means that we are being influenced by something that is external. So it could be the weather that is there, it could be someone said something, yeah, it could be some object that is there in the external surroundings, which is influencing our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions. And when we get influenced by these external factors, meaning we start to take things personally, as if something is happening to me, and we get affected a lot when we start to take things personally. So just to give an example, how, you know, some things we take personally, but there are some things that we don't take personally, and the reason also we will discuss why is that. So example of, if there is um, you are visiting some place and you see that someone is scratching some car which is standing on the street. So how will you feel about that? So that is one level, right? So if you don't know whose car that is, some strange car, and some stranger is scratching that car, so you will just not be so affected, right? Now, if someone were to um, come and scratch your neighbor's car, right? Where you live, your neighbor, somebody is scratching their car, so you will be a little more affected by that, right? And if someone were to scratch your car, then you will take it a bit more personally, right? Now, if someone were to actually put a scratch on your body, right? So that will be very, very personal for you, right? So your level of being sensitive to the same act of scratching, now it is varying as per what situation is, or what your attitude is, what your awareness is towards that situation, right? So in the case of a stranger, you were least affected, you didn't take it personally at all. In the case of the neighbor, it was a little more personal. Then in the case of your own car, it was quite personal. And then when it came to the own body, the vehicle, right? Then it was very, very personal. And you get influenced by it, right? when you start to take things personally, then you start to ask these questions, that why is it that this is happening to me? Why is this person saying like this? And we become very sensitive. We um, don't, we fear a lot of times. We don't have courage. We are not able to tolerate when such a thing happens, right? So, what does then being sensible mean? The other option that we have is being sensible. Now, uh, being sensible just means having common sense. And like they say, that common sense is not so common these days, right? And what spiritual wisdom does is that it just makes us sensible. It brings us back into that original innate nature of having common sense. And in the example that was given of scratching, right? Um, the reason that spirituality tells us that we are taking things personally or not taking things personally is what we call the process of identification. Now, um, identification just means that we are not just calling something as mine, but we start to as if define ourselves based on that object or person or some matter, right? Something in this physical world. So, in the case of the stranger's car, right, there was no identification because we don't know that person. It doesn't matter whose car it is and what is happening with that car, it doesn't matter at all. In the case of the neighbor's car being scratched, we know that person, so there is a little bit of identification. It is my neighbor, right? And what happens to the neighbor is really, is to some extent is affecting me. We are defining ourselves that this is the neighbor. Then, in the case of um, the car for the self, right, there is bit more identification because we are calling that my car, right, and getting affected by it. And the biggest identification is with the vehicle of this soul, the tiny point of light, which is the body. So if somebody is scratching the body, then there is a lot of pain and suffering, and that is because there is identification that this is who I am. The body is who I am, and um, we are completely getting lost in the definition of who I am. And hence, if somebody does something to the body or even says something for the body, right, they may criticize my cheeks, right? So, something like this, or the hair, right? And um, there is a lot of offense that is taken. And this tells us that there is definitely identification happening, which is a false identification. And it's not just with criticism or something harmful that is happening, but it is also to do with praise and something good that is happening. There could be identification, but it's easier to recognize when that there is identification, that a false identification, if we are seeing that we are being sensitive, that we are taking things personally, we are being offensive, right? We are taking offense. So that is a very clear example of identification. So, how do we get out of this identification? And spiritual wisdom is telling us that we all have this true identity, which is that of being just a point of light, the soul. And the moment we start to shift our awareness from the false identity of, say, the body or the role that is being played, or the owner of the car, that could be another false identity, right? The moment we start to shift our awareness from these false identities to true identity of that being just a point of light, a soul, then we are being very sensible. Then we see that we are not being sensitive. There is a natural, innate courage that comes in. There is a natural, innate stability of the mind that is experienced. We are able to be tolerant of many, many things which we never thought we would be able to tolerate. And not just tolerate. Tolerate doesn't mean that we keep quiet and do nothing, become passive about if someone is scratching the car in this example, right? But it is a very active state. We are able to actually respond from a state of calmness and peace and clarity when we are being sensible and not sensitive. Sensitivity gets into this reactionary kind of response, but here we are trying with the shift in awareness to be sensible. Okay, so let us now experiment with the meditation where we will see that we can achieve this state of awareness, that nothing is mine, by just being an observer of whatever is happening in this physical world of matter. And we will connect with our reality also, right? So we just sit in a comfortable position and we take a moment to observe our surroundings. And while observing the surroundings, we withdraw our attention away from the external surroundings. And in the mind, we make a shift in our awareness. We become aware with full concentration and focus on that tiny point of light, the soul. The point of light is the invisible observer, the living, conscient being. The observer is using the eyes to observe the surroundings. Just using the eyes for temporary period of time to observe the plants, the walls, the lights, the room, the furniture, the people, just observing. And in this observing, we see that everything that is being observed is temporary in nature. It is changing. The body and the cells in the body are also changing. Just observe the sensations in the body and see how temporary they are in nature. This invisible observer is using the organs to perceive. The invisible observer is aware that the body, the objects around, the sensations, all those are temporary. There is nothing that belongs to the observer. There is nothing that is personal for the observer. This invisible observer is aware of his truth. The observer is aware of the world beyond this world of matter. The invisible observer is able to zoom out of this whole world of physical matter. And he's able to feel the presence of truth. In this world of light, he's able to feel the presence of real life. This invisible observer feels a sense of belonging to this world that is changeless. He's able to feel the presence of continuity. This world is timeless. There is no beginning and no end in this world. He is awake to his original self, the true self. He's awake to his innate original wisdom. He is very sensible when he is able to see in this zoomed out state that physical world of matter as temporary, and he observes with detachment every change that is happening in that world that is unpredictable. He just observes the interactions that are happening between people. There are many characters and roles in that world play. He is just observing the play. And in that play, two people may be scratching each other, scratching the car, praising, giving a big piece of cake, or snatching away the cake. Whatever is happening in that physical world play, the observer is totally independent of that play. He knows that not even one atom of that play belongs to him. He doesn't call my cake, my character, my neighbor, my car. Nothing is mine. He is just an observer. He's not taking anything personally. There is nothing that is personal in that world that is changing. So, as we go through the rest of the day, we become aware as an observer that we are belonging to this world of truth. And observe like a third party the physical world play. we experience stability. And when we come in interaction with the physical world play as an observer, we are able to be sensible, not sensitive. Thank you, and I hope the voice was okay. I'm just noticing some comments. This observer state is a very powerful state to be in, and the more we practice, the more we are able to um, be in a state of wisdom and truth, and we will then be more calm and peaceful, and we all don't want to be very sensitive, right? As if others are pushing our buttons. So, just being in that observer stage helps us not to be extremely influenced or sensitive to things. So, if anyone has any questions, please feel free. We do have a couple of minutes. I hope that we all are able to practice this, and we will meet you again soon then. Thank you.